Hello everybody, peace, welcome to another episode, and today I'm going to be talking about a recent occurrence that has been happening actually in the Muslim community. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and I am Aisha. I am a certified integrative somatic practitioner, and I do a whole bunch of other stuff. You can check out my website, all the information is under this video. But before I really go into the actual topic of today, I wanted to just give you a preface of something that has happened recently within the Muslim community, and you can say that it's a scandal, you can say all of these other things, but I really wanted to talk about it from more of a stance of what can we do, right? What can we do as people who are hearing about things like this? And I will get back to what this is, and what can we do that is productive, that is still in alignment with our values as Muslims, which is really the priority of why we live our lives in the way we live our lives and choose to be Muslim, right? So it's all about choice, it's all about the path of nobility, the path of righteousness, and I really want to kind of bring it back to that as well. So yeah, let's dive right in. Bismillah.
From beautiful seas to flourishing legacies.
So I don't really want to go into mentioning names. If you've seen my videos before, you'll know that I don't really go into name dropping. You might see an image of someone who you recognize, but really it's not a name. But I will talk a little bit about what has happened, right? In the most hopefully vaguest of terms and at the same time clear. So what happened recently was this expose, right? It seems to be a lot of exposés, not limited to Muslims. In fact, I'm going to be talking about that in different videos because it's just so relevant to the human condition in general. So this expose was in the Muslim community. Apparently a brother, he had taken on a second wife, and it was not just a second wife, it was a secret wife, right? And that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about in this video. And what had happened was there was an injustice that happened between them, and then she was talking about wanting her rights and so on and so on, and there's just so much drama from each side. And the way that I wanted to really talk about this is and if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, right? But I don't really want to go into names. I don't want to name drop. The point is, and inshallah, I'm going to make a few points and I'm going to get to what the point is. But first and foremost, I do want to cover certain nuances of this whole situation in itself from a Muslim perspective, according to, inshallah, the Quran and Sunnah, right? The way of our Prophet, peace be upon him. So first and foremost, this whole thing, and the reason why it is so intriguing to so many people, is this idea of a secret wife, right? And there's been people who talk about a lot of people in the community who are well known, who are influential, who have taken on secret wives. And by secret, I mean women who are married as a second or third wife, and the first one or two don't know. And in Islam, we do believe that men can marry up to 4 wives religiously, and there is much wisdom to that, and I'm not going to go into that whole conversation and that whole topic in itself, but you can definitely find so many resources out there about that. Now, individually, of course, whether the man takes on these second wives or third wives or the fourth wife is a question between really the couple themselves. Now, this whole thing about the secret wife, now I might get this whole definition wrong about what the actual situation was, but the one I'm going to be talking about is this idea of temporary marriage, right? So basically marrying someone with the intention of being with them for just like a short period of time and then, leaving them, right? And ending it. So some might call it as like a marriage of convenience, where one of the spouses forgoes their rights for the intention of being with that person. Now, when it comes to temporary marriage, I firmly believe that, according to the Quran and Sunnah, that this is something that goes against the teachings of Islam for a few reasons. One of the reasons is because one of the conditions of marrying another wife is so each wife is treated equally. And if one wife does not know about the other wife, hence the secret wife, right, then she is not being treated equally. And the second wife, the secret wife, so to speak, would probably not be treated equally as well, if even if she has chosen to forego her rights, and even if that is a willing thing to do. Now, the whole premise in itself of marrying someone for a temporary amount of time, for whatever reason, is something that religiously is not acceptable if you follow the majority opinion, right? So that in itself is completely out there, right? It's just no, right? We do not do that, right? Unless, of course, you follow a different sect, unless you're part of a different religion as well. That is something completely different. But according to the Quran and Sunnah, we don't do temporary marriages, right? Now, the question of a secret wife. We already mentioned that if there is an inequality between two wives, then already you are not abiding by the conditions of having a second wife or a third wife or a fourth wife. But if, for example, this does go ahead and this woman is, she says that, okay, I am happy to be a secret wife. Nobody has to know about me. There's a couple of things about this as well. So, for example, one of the things is that a wife, in order for two people to get married, there are conditions, and one of them, which is a very strong condition, is that her wali, her guardian, who is her father, if he is alive, must be present, right? That's the one thing. The second thing is that there should also be witnesses present to the marriage. That's the second thing. The third thing also is that you're supposed to announce that you're married publicly. You're actually supposed to announce it. Hence the walima, which is basically like the party after the ceremony, the official ceremony, right? So you're supposed to tell people that I'm married, like whether it's the first time or second time. And a secret wife kind of doesn't go with all of that. Now, we've spoken about that. We've spoken about the religious aspect. I want to talk about another part of this as well. Being a wife and knowing women who are married to their husbands and husbands who are married to their wives, and sometimes these husbands are very influential and they are quite popular in the Muslim community or whatever community, they share their knowledge. And now I want you to imagine, right, a woman who might have heard or seen your husband. I want you to imagine it as a woman, right, as the wife, and another woman coming to your husband, knowing that he is married with probably children, and then insinuating and then being okay with being that secret wife, right? But also being okay with the other wife not knowing anything about it and kind of being initiated into that situation, right? So now this isn't to tell off anyone in particular. I really want to stress that out because this isn't something that happens like a one-off thing. It happens in many situations. It happens with non-Muslims too. You'll see a guy and he's well known, or maybe he's got something about him, and then women will go and literally woon over him, and then they will offer themselves to him, even if he is still married, right? This is not a Muslim thing. This is a unfortunate societal thing. It's a cultural thing sometimes as well because of so many things that we are being fed by the media and so on, right? So where is the kind of honor in that, right? That's the point that I'm trying to make. The point is that where is the consideration for another human being who is married to this husband? Now, I want to say that sometimes you have feelings for people. I've made a video about this. It's called limerence. It's about limerence. It's about this idea of being with someone and the love is mostly unreciprocated, but there is this fantasy that you create about a person, and then you imagine that they are this thing, and then when you end up getting with them, you've done all the things, you've left your marriage, you've done all of them things, and then they end up being the complete opposite of what you imagine because you see reality, right? And then you're like so off them. You're like, oh, what was I thinking? And that's what happens sometimes. most of the time the fantasy breaks. Maybe not in that way, but it does, because every fantasy is not reality. And when reality is brought into the picture, then you kind of wake up to what you really feel, and what you really want. And most of the time it's not that person or that thing. You can be limerent over a thing as well, in my opinion. It could be addiction. It really is an addiction. And then you basically get over it. And now this situation, I've almost lost my train of thought there, but basically the point is that this whole situation, and I know that there's also men, I'm probably jumping around all over the place here, but I know that there's also brothers, men who are very okay about secret wives. They talk about this, they talk about it openly, they are very, vocal about it, and that is, like I said, that's their opinion, but at the end of the day, I just want to bring the wife who they are married to, who has had their children, who they have been married to for however long, the respect for the wife enough to care about her feelings. Let's just forget about all the rulings and all the technicalities, and all of those things are so crucial and they are so important. We've talked about that, but let's talk about the wife, right? Let's talk about the feelings of the wife. Where is the consideration from the brother and the sister who chooses to be the secret wife, right? And the sister who kind of is okay about kind of the way the other one feels. Now, I'm not saying that even if the first wife knew about what was happening, she would be okay with it. But at least to have a conversation with her and respect her enough to have that conversation with her and take into account how she's feeling, right? Give her a choice. And that is something that is Islamically acceptable. And you might not have to ask for her permission. No, you don't have to, right? But at least respect her enough to talk to her about it, right? She's worth that respect as the mother of your children, right? So there's that aspect. Now, I want to talk about what we know about this scandal that happened, this whole situation that's happened. And as I said, I don't like dropping names on this channel. I don't want this channel to be about that at all. But if you know, right? So basically, what we know about the situation is that there are people who are saying one thing on one side, and there are people who are claiming something else on the other side, and there is a lot of back and forth, and there is drama, right? And mostly when there is a whole thing of chaos that is happening, most of the time is because it's trauma driven. Now, let's bring it back to everything I talk about in this channel, right? Every single behavior, every single thought, every single thing that we do is driven by something that we sometimes don't even know the reason why we're doing it. Why do we feel this way about this person? Why are we attracted to this thing, which is so bad for us, right? Why are we falling into these patterns of behavior? Why are we disassociating? Why are we people pleasing? Why are we fighting people and taking advantage and guilt tripping them and being narcissistic towards them, right? That's the best word to describe it. Why are we running away and jumping from one thing to another and trying to escape all the time? It's all trauma driven, right? And I don't want to go into the whole ideological thing of every single thing and every person has gone through trauma. I don't want to talk about that. But I do want to say that if you ever see a situation where there is this much drama and chaos from each side, as well as the people representing each side, and as I said, I'm not going to mention names, right? It's driven by trauma. This is a trauma reaction, right? It's a coping mechanism. It's how people know how to react to something. So on one side, we have people shouting and threatening. And on the other side, we have other people calmly talking and being more calculated about it, right? But both of these are just masks for something deeper inside that needs to be met, right? It's a need that needs to be met. And I want to also stress that I'm not saying this from a place of I know and you don't know and you're lesser and I'm bigger. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that this situation there's always so much more to what you see on a screen. There is a whole backstory. I'm a writer. I love writing novels. I love creating characters. Inshallah, one of my novels is going to be out, inshallah, very soon. Please watch this video and watch this space. I'm going to be sharing it with you. Why am I saying all of this? The point is that every single character that we create as writers has a whole backstory. Every single thing they do and every single thing they think about, every want and every need has a backstory, right? So always remember that. Never take anything for face value when you see it on a screen. We do not know the full story. And that takes me back to, what do we know about this situation? We don't know really anything. I mean, we know bits and bats, what people have been saying, but only Allah knows everything. We don't know anything. We don't know really even scratching the surface. We don't know, right? But what do we know? We know that there are people who are optimizing, who are haters of Islam, and they are making the most of this fitna that is happening in our community. That's what we know, for sure, right? Ex-Muslims. I don't want to say names, as I said, right? Going out there and literally getting excited about, oh, this is happening, that is happening, and this is why, because Islam is like this, and people are optimizing out of it. There's famous atheists who are literally going on these channels and commenting their, information. I won't say it's insights. They're just like throwing stuff out there because they're optimizing. That's one thing we know for sure. Now, there's a narration of one of the occurrences that happened at the time of the Sahaba, the companions of our Prophet, peace be upon him. There was two Sahaba, and they had been fighting with each other about something, right? It was an internal disagreement, and having disagreements is a very natural thing. That's what we do. We're humans. We have disagreements, right? There was a disagreement that was happening between both of them, to the extent that there would have even been something of a war that either happened. I really need to brush up on reading this, but the core element is that there was a disagreement between them both. So someone who was non-Muslim saw that this was happening, and they sent a letter to one of the Sahaba, Sahaba, and they said to him, like, I'm on your side. Like, if you want to join me, you have my whole army, you have everyone behind you. And this Sahaba, he got the letter, he either tore it up and he gave it back, basically. He said, no, whatever's happening between us is between us. You can get away, basically, right? And that was the mannerisms. That was the subhanallah, the beauty of the vision of why we are doing this work in the first place. Da'wah, healing, telling each other about, calling to good, forbidding the evil. That's why we're doing it in the first place, is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's an ultimate picture, right? And theirs was disunity, and we take care of our own, right? And we respect each other. So that's basically what we do know. We know that there's a lot of fitna being created, and if both parties, if you are watching this, I would say find some kind of resolution that is mature and something that is hopefully going to not bring so much fitna in our community. There's already so much happening in the world out there. The last thing we need is to be disunited, to call each other out and speak about each other in this way and curse each other and demand that the other person curses the other. And what is this? What is this? It's so like bizarre, it's just so unnatural to what our messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to give us. He came to give us a message of peace, of unity, of sisterhood, of brotherhood. And now we have people who are calling other people out and saying this because it has to be done. But guess what? There's a lot of people who are non-Muslim who are doing something even worse. Why is no one saying anything about that? So I really want us, the whole point of this is I really want us to reflect when we hear something that is happening in the Muslim community, and instead of taking sides, try and bring two people together instead of, or like it says in Surah Al-Hujurat, being a person that is a bridge rather than a wall that divides and takes one side here and takes one side there, right? Because we will never know the full story. We really have no idea. Like, I listened to the videos of this situation. I listened to a sister who I think is an amazing sister who's doing some amazing work, mashallah. They had so much value to give, but at the same time, I literally walked away and I was like, what is happening? This is so confusing. I mean, if I'm confused, then I mean, who knows what's going on? We have no idea, right? But we do know that a lot of fitna is being caused and it's dangerous. And there is something that has to be done about that, right? A little bit of wisdom, maybe, right? Wisdom means everything in its proper place at its proper time. A little bit of wisdom, and however that looks for you as a person who is observing or as a person who is partaking in this dispute, we can do it peacefully, or we can do it civilized, or we can do it maturely. I'm sure we can, right? I hope that hopefully this video has provided some value for you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day, everybody. I do have some programs that are going to be coming up. All the information, everything that I do, I have some freebies for you as well, is underneath this video. And a lot of it is related to what I'm talking about here, because it is not just an individual struggle. We are all going through something, right? We're all going through something in our personal lives, with our marriages, with our children, with our parents, with our relationships, and all of that. So I pray that Allah brings peace, He brings unity, and He brings us all together in good. And may Allah always guide our path and forgive us for the things that we've done, the things that we don't know about, and not hold us accountable for that which we have no idea about. And thank you so much for being here with me, everyone. Peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.